Good evening. Welcome to the Canby City Council regular meeting for May 7th, 2014. If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain in silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stay standing for just a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Well, good evening. It's been a month, I think, since the council has met, so we've got some catching up to do, and to get things rolling, we will have what appears to be Proclamation Wednesday. So the first of several this evening is the proclamation for Water Safety Month. Whereas citizens of Canby recognizes that swimming and aquatic-related activities contribute to good physical and mental health and enhance the quality of life for all people. And whereas the citizens of Canby understand the essential role that water safety education plays in preventing drownings and recreational water-related injuries, and have demonstrated that understanding by approving funding to continue operation of the Canby Swim Center. And whereas the city of Canby is aware of the contributions made by the recreational water industry as represented by the many organizations, including the Canby Swim Center, involved in the National Water Safety Month Coalition that have developed safe swimming facilities, swim lessons, and other aquatic programs, home pools and spas, and related activities. And whereas these facilities, along with the many natural rivers and ponds in the Canby area, are providing healthy places to recreate, learn and grow, build self-esteem and confidence, and a sense of self-worth, which contributes to the quality of life in our community. And whereas the citizens of Canby recognize the ongoing efforts and commitment of the Canby Swim Center to educate the public, and especially children, regarding water safety issues so that they may safely enjoy the benefits of all water-related activities. And whereas the citizens of Canby understand the vital importance of communicating water safety rules and programs to families and individuals of all ages, whether owners of private pools, users of public swimming facilities, or visitors to area rivers and swimming holes. Now therefore I, Brian Hodson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Canby, do hereby proclaim the month of May as Water Safety Month in the city of Canby, and do urge all those in the Canby area to support and promote this observance, given under my hand this 7th day of May, 2014 in the city of Canby, Oregon. And I believe we have our swim center director here. Sir? Thank you. How are you? Good. Good. Do you want to take a few moments and say something? Sure.
I'd just like to take this time to remind people that now is a great time to sign up for our summer swimming lessons. Our summer schedule starts June 8th, and we have a full lineup of swimming lessons, public swims, water exercise. So if you know anybody that needs to come down, learn how to swim, now's a great time to sign up. And if they just want to come down and enjoy the swim center, that's available also. I'd also like to remind everyone that this Saturday at the Canby Swim Center will be the 10th annual Gator Grinder Triathlon. So there will be about 300 athletes there, plus a bunch of spectators and family members. So if anybody wants to come down and check it out, that's great. It starts at about 7:30 in the morning, should go till about 12:30 or 1. And there'll be a lot of bikes, a lot of wet swimmers, and a bunch of runners.
Great. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our second proclamation this evening is Poppy Days in Canby. Whereas the American Legion Auxiliary adopted the poppy as its memorial flower, which pays tribute to the war dead and serves as a source of aid to surviving veterans and their families, and whereas the contributions provided by the American Legion Auxiliary are put to good use in support of the children and youth of the Canby community and toward the rehabilitation and care of veterans. And whereas the work of the American Legion Auxiliary through the annual sale of poppies is a proper and fitting tribute to the acts of patriotism and courage made by our nation's veterans in time of national need. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Canby, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2014 as Poppy Month also. And I do further proclaim the week of May 25th through May 31st, 2014 as Poppy Days in the city of Canby, and urge all citizens in the city of Canby to proudly remember the sacrifices made by the members of our armed forces by contributing to the American Legion Auxiliary during the month of May 2014 in support of their service to our country's veterans. Given unto my hand the 7th day of May 2014.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm great.
Oh, thank you very much.
May I pass them?
Yes, you may, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's a big table.
That's a lot to reach across.
You don't want us to touch you. They do.
Thank you.
It's actually the other way around.
Protect you from that. Thank you.
Don't feed the animals.
They haven't had dinner.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Thank you.
That's nice, Tracy.
Our next proclamation this evening is the National Association of Letter Carriers National Food Drive Day. Whereas the National Association of Letter Carriers, in conjunction with the National Rural Letter Carriers Association, Campbell Soup Company, Valpak, U.S. Postal Service, United Way, AFL-CIO, Feeding America, Uncle Bob's Self Storage, AARP, Publix, and Velasas are coordinating a non-perishable food drive, and whereas the St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank at St. Patrick Church and Canby's local food banks are in need of food at all times, and whereas the local food bank shelves are continuing in need of replenishment due to the ongoing dramatic increase in the need for food, and whereas last year 8,855 pounds of non-perishable food was collected, and whereas during the last 6 months the total number of food orders at the St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank in Canby was 1,356. And whereas the local letter carriers will collect non-perishable food items placed by mailboxes on Saturday, May 10th, 2014, now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Canby, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 10th, 2014, as 2014 National Association of Letter Carriers National Food Drive Day, and urge all citizens in the city of Canby to participate in this worthwhile event by donating non-perishable food items to help feed those who are in need. Given unto my hand the 7th day of May, 2014. Howdy. Hello, sir. Thank you very much. Give that to you there. I already just read that, if you just want to...
Your Honor and Councilman, this is John Dewar, our food drive chair, and he's turned it over 2014 to me, Irene Brashears. I was his co-chair all these 21 years. And on behalf of the Canby Post Office, we thank you. John's got a helper, Pete Peterson from the rural route. Pete just retired last year, and so Pete will be helping us because the rural route and the city routes are together joining to do and help in the town of Canby, picking up all your fine cans and boxes of food, non-perishables, in your mailboxes this Saturday. So we'll have Pete come around and pick up your canned goods, and then John. Yeah.
I just want to thank Dodson again.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you.
I noticed your for state.
Thank you.
For which ones?
I can't remember. But anyway, I feel that
Thank you very much.
they have a strong leader.
Thank you.
And it's good to work with.
That's good.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I also make a group, so that helps. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, Irene. Our next proclamation this evening is Walk and Bike Challenge Month. We have a very busy May, everyone, and lots of challenges out there for everyone to take note of. So the Walk and Bike Challenge Month proclamation, whereas for more than a century the bicycle has been a utilitarian, economical, environmentally sound, and effective means of personal transportation, recreation, and fitness. And whereas the City of Canby encourages the use of bicycles and walking as a means of transportation, and whereas the City of Canby recognizes the bicycle as a legitimate roadway vehicle and therefore is entitled to legal and responsible use of all public roadway facilities in Oregon except highways constructed to interstate standards, and whereas the City of Canby encourages the increased use of the bicycle and walking, benefiting all citizens of Canby by improving air quality, reducing traffic congestion and noise, decreasing the use of and dependence upon finite energy sources, and fostering physical fitness. And whereas the City of Canby recognizes the use of bicycles and walking as viable modes of transportation, endeavors to promote safe and responsible bicycling and walking, and it's committed to incorporating the development of bicycle and pedestrian facilities in the vision for revitalizing downtown Canby. And whereas the City of Canby's Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, in conjunction with the mayor, encourage all citizens to ride their bicycles or walk to work, to the store, to the park, to school, and around their neighborhoods with friends, family, and neighbors to promote the personal and societal benefits achieved from bicycling and walking. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Canby, do hereby proclaim the month of May as Walk and Bike Challenge Month in the City of Canby, and do urge all those in the Canby area to support and promote this observance. Given under my hand the 7th day of May, 2014, in the City of Canby, Oregon. We have anyone accepting that one tonight, Kim, do you know?
I'll accept that on behalf of the Bike and Pedestrian Committee that has been working very hard towards developing bike routes and making the city more bike-friendly. So thank you to the citizen members of that committee.
Very much so. Thank you, sir. The next proclamation is Public Works Week. Whereas the public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as parks, fleet, sewer, streets, stormwater, wastewater, and public buildings, and whereas the safety and health and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services, and whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works staff. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Canby, do hereby proclaim May 18th to the 24th of 2014 as Public Works Week in the City of Canby, and call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and recognize the contributions which public works staff make every day to our health, safety, and effort and quality of life. Given out of my hand the 7th day of May 2014 in the City of Canby. I believe Jerry, our public works expert, is here. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Please say a few words.
I didn't prepare anything, but if you have any questions for me, I'm glad to answer them.
I think just, for me, just thank you for
Thanks.
all that you guys do to
Thank
keep
you.
the city running, so thank you.
Pass this on to all the other departments.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jerry.
Is that a demonstration for the next proclamation?
Last but not least on our proclamation list this evening is Drinking Water Week. Thank you, Clint. Whereas water is our most valuable and natural resource, and whereas only tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and the quality of life we enjoy. And whereas any measure of a successful society, low mortality rates, economic growth and diversity, productivity, and public safety are in some way related to access to safe water. And whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which future generations depend, and whereas each citizen of our city is called upon to help protect our source of waters from pollution to practice water conservation and to get involved in local water issues by getting to know their water. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Canby, do hereby proclaim May 4th through the 10th as Drinking Water Week in the city of Canby and call upon all citizens to support and promote this observance. Given under my hand the 7th day of May, 2014, in the city of Canby. We have, Kim, anyone on that one? Bob? Well, we should give that to Bob.
Thank you.
Yes.
Nice work. And I'd like to say a few words if I could.
Absolutely, please do.
I want to thank you, Mayor Hodson, and the council for this Drinking Water Week proclamation. Canby Utility is formed under the city charter as a separate entity to provide electric and potable, in other words, safe drinking water for all of Canby. In the last at least 9 years, Canby Utility has met or exceeded all U.S. EPA and state drinking water standards through rigorous annual testing. In other words, we could give you clean water that's critical for life for drinking, cooking, washing, flushing, watering, recreation, and a myriad of other uses. What's it cost? The price? Well, less than 1/2 cent per gallon for pure water. And that's for the average resident delivered to the home. What that equates to is 8 of these 16-ounce bottles of drinking water that taste good for a cost of less than 1/2 cent for all 8 bottles. Again, thank you for recognizing the importance of clean and safe water in our daily lives.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Well done, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Well, thank you all for the proclamations, I appreciate that. Moving into communications. And anything at this time? Nope, we're okay. First opportunity for citizen input and community announcement tonight. Through course of the agenda, we like to get citizen input, so if there's anything that's on a non-agenda item, just need to fill out one of these little yellow cards and bring it over here to Kim, and she'll make sure that I get it. Please ask to keep it to 3 minutes, so we can keep the agenda moving this evening, and address the council as you see fit. First up is Mr. Bob Backstrom, talking about the Traffic Safety Commission. Oh, sorry, they're right over there on the podium? Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Hodson. My name is Bob Backstrom. I live at 1395 North Birch, and I'm here to give you a little update about the Traffic Safety Commission, of which I am secretary, and Clint Coleman is the liaison from the City Council, and Clint asked me if I would do this. And he has an announcement for later on when it's his turn to talk about liaison reports. A really exciting announcement, I think. But, Mr. Mayor, go back for 1 second about the bicycle week, and I would like to say, what about those bike racks? Those are pretty darn nice, and they've stood up now for a year, and I know that several of you had lots to do with that, and I love them, frankly. I think they're just wonderful, and they fit in really nicely in our city. And I also want to thank all of you for letting me vote on the Civic Center and the library. That is a feather in your cap. It's a wonderful gesture, and it's very much appreciated in this city. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your hard work and your unity on that issue. That is really wonderful news. Okay, back in 2006, 7, and 8, I was secretary of the Traffic Safety Commission, and it dissolved. And it dissolved for a myriad of reasons, and I don't want to go into them. So then it lay dormant for a while, and then about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, Greg Ellis came to me because I'd been bugging him for years about the traffic in the neighborhood. And And he said, Bob, it's time to start that Traffic Safety Commission again. I said, I'm willing to do that. And it was really amazing because like 2 days later, I bumped into Brian and he asked me the same thing. And I don't know if you and Greg were in cahoots about that or not, but anyway, I was willing to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. Well, we tried to get north side people and south side people, and we worked really hard to do that. And we ended up with 4 people, Leonard Walker from NECNA, and Dan Leishner from NECNA, and Jack Pendleton, who is the chair from RNA, and I'm the 4th one. So we had 4 neighborhood people from the north side. But it turns out we have a couple additional people interested now, and might be someone from the south side also interested. So that group is functioning very, very well and very busy. You guys, the city manager, Greg Ellis, and the mayor and councilors asked us several things that they wanted us to accomplish. And one was to assist all the neighborhoods in Canby, not just my neighborhood on Birch, everybody. We're working hard all over town. You asked us also to focus on the north side bypass, because that has been an issue for many, many years. And you asked us to try, and Brian, you particularly hammered this point with me more than once, to try to get some of that traffic that is bypassing downtown and deteriorating and damaging our streets, to get them to stay on 99, stop and get a haircut and buy some gas and buy some groceries and take out a mortgage. Instead of coming through our neighborhoods. One of the goals was to reduce speed, and Clint will talk about that, I'm sure. We've been working really hard on crossings and crosswalks, and you'll start seeing some results of our work shortly. We've been doing a lot of sign work, improving signs, moving them out where they're more visible, changing the locations. We dealt last Friday with the North Baker folks. We had 18 people at our meeting, and we've been getting really good turnouts at our meetings. We've tried to do something, and this is not new to anybody here, so I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but the Pine and 99 intersection is something we've also taken a real interest in, and Leonard Walker has been pushing that issue for as long as I've known Leonard, for 10 or 15 years. Something finally is going to happen over there. We know it takes time. We've been involved with North 10th and Northwoods. We've had meetings with that. We're concerned about. That's another long straight stretch now that's going to be heavily traveled, and how do we calm that neighborhood? It's best to calm neighborhoods, as you know, in the construction phase rather than as a retrofit. So we're trying to be proactive on that early on. If you take a look at South 13th, those neighbors have been busy with the city for several years. It's finally coming to fruition. They've been trying to anticipate opening up Sequoia Parkway and the additional traffic that's going to put on 13th. And the neighborhood associations and those folks have been working very closely with the city staff, and also they've been coming to our meetings with the Traffic Safety Commission. And I think that they're going to be happy. They expressed satisfaction the last time they were with us. You're going to see some striping, some design, some crossings, some other things that are going to help make it safer over there on South 13th. We're also concerned about front of the high school. That's 4th Street, southwest 4th Street, and it comes up Birch alongside McDonald's, but when it makes the turn, it becomes 4th. We're concerned that hundreds of kids cross that every day, and on the other side of the street, there's no sidewalk, and because of that, there are no crosswalks. So we're trying to get that ironed out. We think it's something that should have been done years ago, and we're working with the high school to plan that and get it done. Of course, we're still working on calming measures for North Birch and Territorial. That is the bypass. We get 3,500 vehicles a day coming around that corner, and we figure about 2,000 of them live out of town. So here are people damaging our streets, not dropping a dime in town, and we need to do something about that, in addition to making it a nice, safe, calm, and quiet neighborhood for the folks who have lived there for 40 years and paid taxes, and they don't deserve that, and we're going to solve that problem. And that's not the only area in town that needs that kind of work. I want to say that Police Chief Smith and Officer Jerry Holstead from the Police Department have been regulars at our meeting. They've been really helpful. Their knowledge is irreplaceable, and we're grateful that they keep coming. They're very interested in what we're doing. And I read the other day where the Supreme Court said we can now use some language in meetings like this, so I want to say that Jerry Nelzine has been a godsend at our meetings. He is knowledgeable, he's a hard worker, he goes and does things before our meeting is even over, and he never leaves the room. I don't know how he does that, but he's an amazing person. And what do we say about Clint? Clint is calm and gentle, and he's very bright, and he's the one that kind of makes things function smoothly, and he's able to look ahead and plan, and he makes us stay on focus, and let's get this done, and what do you say we do this? We've met with the fire department, we've met with the planning department. I understand Amanda has been there when I was gone, and that was really nice. They appreciated you being there. They think you had something to do with Brian Brown showing up, but he's been coming to our meetings, so thank you for that. We have many, many concerned neighbors who have come to our meetings off and on, depending upon what topics are being discussed. So you have a really good Traffic Safety Commission. It's functioning. It's a high-energy group. And if you have any questions, I'll stop and entertain any.
I don't have a question, and I think there might be, but just more of a statement in that I appreciate the exuberance that this group has put forth in trying to get some things done, and there has been I know there's a long list, and it grows, and safety is important, and I think that we've got to acknowledge that, in not just in terms of speed, but where, there's large swaths of town that we've got to get some road improvements and sidewalks and those kinds of things, so those are important pieces that we have to continue to look at. So I appreciate everything that that group is doing, and thank you, sir, for heading that up.
Yeah, Bob, I just wanted to thank you for your initial comments there about the council trying to get its act together and develop some unity with the community, and appreciate your chewing on my leg over the months. It was certainly a part of the equation there. And now I'm glad you're chewing on the legs of other people who need to get attention on traffic safety. I did have a question for you, Bob, on whether the committee has taken a look at the next Planning Commission meeting and the proposed scrape and rebuild of the Canby McDonald's. That there's going to be some changes on the sidewalks around there. You were talking about the high school and the high school to McDonald's. So I would, if you folks have time, I would really like your input on that as the city and the developer take a look at restructuring that lot. The proposal is to increase some of the footprint there. So I know that you've got an eagle eye on these things and would love to have your opinion on what you think about it.
First I've heard of it.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
We're on it.
I'd just like to add one thing that, is easy to overlook, and Bob has dealt with this a lot with folks that maybe live on Birch and around there, and they'll come to our meetings and they'll be very discouraged, almost to the point of putting their house up for sale because they just feel like all these cars just roaring by. So when we can give them some hope and really try to solve the problem, it makes a huge difference.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, Bob, I wanted to say thank you for all the emails that you've kept me updated on the process. And I live on a very high trafficked area, and now they're starting to build, go all the way through on 10th to Birch. So it's going to be a real major thoroughfare now. And so it's really nice to be able to be kept up to date on those.
I don't know if they all know this, but Kent spends some mornings right in front of our house counting traffic at 5:30 in the morning, and when early on, so he's very concerned about traffic in town too. It's nice to have people here who live on busy streets because you really have a sympathy and an understanding of what we go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob, for being here.
Next is Mr. Kevin Anderson. We'll address the city council.
Evening.
Evening, sir.
In 2002, the city of Canby was on notice for their surface water and their damage it was causing. When you first took office, you walked my property with me for about approximately an hour and 45 minutes. Councilwoman Hensley walked it with Senator Olson. Nobody gets back to me. Anyways, what I'm here for is, on January 13th, emailed Senator Olson and CC'd everybody on city council, invited you over. I'll give you a little engineering 101 and show you what the injection of water by City of Canby is doing to the infrastructure in this town. I'd like to reiterate that tomorrow if you guys would come by between 9 and 10. I'd appreciate it. That's all I got. 10 minutes of your time and I'll show you engineering 101, what is happening. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
sir. Next, Mary Rock, regarding some trees and...
Yeah. Mary Rock, 625 North Juniper Street. I lived there for 21 years. I planted an environmental berm. In this berm, there are 35 to 40-foot ornamental trees and shrubs. I worked on my property for a lot of years. I was a single mom. I raised 2 kids. I graduated from Canby High School with honors. Make a long story short, I apologize for the delay in the response, getting back to you with the development that is taking on my street. I was notified by a contractor that was doing some work in my yard in February, telling me that a surveyor came by and said that they're going to be putting sidewalks in. And I basically was unaware of it. And I went to Public Works shortly after that, not knowing that they had put a flyer on my door. I was not notified mail, through certified mail or anything, so I don't go through my front door. I go through a sliding old-time garage door. So anyway, I was not aware of it, and I inquired about it, and unfortunately, yes, 2 sidewalks are going to go into the street with a new sewer and road improvements on both sides of my street. I'm very concerned about 3 trees that are 40 feet tall, and they are obviously in the city right-of-way. And I've talked to Husan, the city engineer, several times. And I've also had my arborist. I'm a golf course superintendent at Charbonneau Golf Course. I know a lot about trees. I work with them every day around cart paths. I know about buckling and all that, stuff. I know what tree roots do. To make a long story short, the city, accordingly to Husan, told me Monday that they would make an exception from a 60-inch sidewalk to a 48-inch sidewalk, which would give me a little more lenience. The one tree that I'm most concerned about is a blue Atlas cedar. It's 40 feet tall. I've got pictures of it if you'd like to see them. My solution to this improvement is from the path from the side of my driveway. If I could get 8 more inches from the 48 down to 40, it would save this tree. And I'm only asking for approximately, and I measured it tonight, 17 feet from the beginning of the sidewalk, just past this tree, and then you could expand your sidewalk to the 48 inches. And it would accommodate the rest of the sidewalk going all the way down to the end of the block. I think that saving that tree and another ornamental tree, these are the other trees that are subject to removal, I think it would really provide an ambience to the neighborhood. I have a petition that was signed by all the neighbors that live on my street, plus quite a few other people that I know in the community. I'm not opposed to the sidewalk. I know that ADA minimum requirements are 36 inches, and if you could give me 40, I'd be more than happy. I know I have to have an 8-foot clearance on this tree to provide walking ability for pedestrians. I'd be willing to do that. And I just would really like to save my trees. And I think it would lower construction costs. But I also think that in the neighborhood that I live in, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's a very low traffic neighborhood. We don't get a lot of cars. And when we do, once they take that corner right around the apartments, it's a straight shot to Territorial Road, and they can just, zoom it down there. And it can get pretty fast driving. But my suggestion is, if, narrowing it and trying to save the trees, I think the neighbors would be happy, I would be happy, and I'm only asking for about 8 inches to save the stability of those trees, and that's basically what the arborist told me. If you could get 8 more inches, I think that this one in particular, it would be okay. And that's where I'm at, and I have a petition, and I apologize that I didn't get, I wasn't more prompt about doing all this, but like I said, the notice I got, what I supposedly got, I never did get, and I was only told about it from a contractor that was putting in a new patio paver on my back side, and I came home from work because, like I said, I'm a golf course superintendent, and he said, "Did you know there was a sidewalk going in here?" And this was back in February. And I wasn't aware of it. And he basically told me, and then I contacted Public Works, and they said, yeah, and they gave me the construction foreman's name, and then the construction foreman gave me the sub-engineer's name, and I've spoken several times with Husan, and I'm sure you all know him. And I met him on Monday, and he said, well, they want to put a sidewalk in, which is fine, but if they could just give me a leeway just around that one tree, you can have your 48 inches of sidewalk, and that's all I'm asking.
Well, Mary, thank you for coming and speaking to us tonight. I received your letters and some of your family members as well, and I appreciate you coming and talking to us and sending the letters in. I went out there today and met with Jerry from Public Works and walked kind of the project and what was going on. And you have a beautiful yard. There's no doubt about that, and I know that there's been a lot of attention and love put to that, and it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
It is. It's our yards and our property are near and dear, and I'm a big proponent of property rights, especially as it comes to, personal property. We seem to have that infringed upon often. In this rule, I also have to keep in mind the city property pieces as well, and that it is a big project we're putting on, and Jerry walked me through, even by what your suggestion from an arborist and the engineer, based on trying to lay in all the piping and whatnot for the drainage and the stormwater pieces. There's a chance that even cutting into those roots, we could be damaging the tree that later would need it to be removed. And that's a concern that I have. Longer down the road, what does that mean? We can't not put the sidewalks in, because that becomes an insurance liability piece for us as a city, and we've got to be responsible for that aspect as well. One of the things that Jerry and I spoke about today, as we kind of walked it and mapped it out, was what can we do? I mean, I don't know if it's, I know that there's 3 big trees, and they're beautiful, and they add a lot of shade to your front yard, and so I don't know if there's we talked about, is it a moving piece? Can we replace what's coming down? I know that there's been a number of shrubs and things moved along that project, and others people, like your neighbor across the street, came out and talked to us about the project and was very appreciative of the pieces that the work crew did do in moving trees and trying to accommodate as much of those different encroachment pieces as possible.
I understand.
Jerry, what were some of the, we talked about root barriers, we talked about trying to get some stock from, I think Jerry said that you guys reviewed our tree plan, or what we use, and I said to Jerry that it's possible if we, can go outside of that, I think we could have that conversation and figure that out.
Could I add something?
Sure.
Being a golf course superintendent, I'm pretty attentive to soil conditions, and Canby soil is a sandy loam soil, and it's particular with different type of tree species, but that tree that I'm referring to, the big one on the corner, that has subsurface roots, they're going to go down. It doesn't have surface roots. So basically, if you could stay a minimum of, 30 inches, 36 inches away, which would put you at a 40-inch sidewalk, you wouldn't damage that tree. Those roots go down. They're not surface-rooted trees. The third tree down my berm, yeah, that's a surface-rooted tree, the ponderosa pine. I probably will lose that, but that's okay. I'm willing to lose that. But the blue atlas, that has a root structure that is it's got a tap root, and it's going to go down, so you're not going to damage the surface roots if you don't get too close to the tree. And what they call them are anchor roots. And if you could just give me 6 inches more than the 48, just like the arborist told me, Chris at Citywide Tree Service, he said if they could give you 6 inches more, you could save that tree. And the other 2 trees, I think they'll be fine. The ponderosa pine, I think that one has already been damaged, because when they came in and ripped out all the junipers there, they hit that, but I'm just going to wait and see on that. But the major concern that I have is my blue atlas cedar that's right on the corner of my berm. And I understand that I'm going to have to limb that up 8 to 10 feet for clearance of that sidewalk, and I don't have a problem with that. My biggest concern, and I'm really willing to compromise with the city, is to save that tree, because it has a substantial value, and it's a beautiful tree. It adds a lot to the neighborhood. So I mean, that's my case. 8 inches, that's all I want.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mary. Jerry, is there,
Yeah, and
Input there.
I feel bad having to have you guys try to make a decision. You know, I'm not trying to force you guys into making a decision on this, but it is your community. And I appreciate you coming out and looking at this. And Mary, I'm sorry I missed the meeting on Monday, so that I saw him. I was the one that told him that we could go down to the 48 to try to help with
Yeah.
that, which is, I don't think a lot of you are in favor of. I know we've done it in the past in certain situations like this, but in this certain situation, 48, I mean, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. I know kind of how you stand, Brian. This is something that we don't have to make a decision tonight. I mean, we have a little bit of time to do, and we can talk about this, but Amanda has a lot of, she deals with this a lot on the sidewalk issues, with trees being pushed up and stuff that causes problems down the road. And that's another concern that I don't want to...
And you know, like I said, I'm a golf course superintendent, and I've got 7 miles of cart paths that I maintain at Charbonneau Golf Course with tree roots. So I am
You
very
understand.
well aware of what tree roots can do. Yeah, and I'd be happy to, you know, repair in the fact that if those tree roots were to buckle the sidewalk, yes, I would maintain the sidewalk. I would take responsibility for that.
well, we appreciate that piece of it. I know that was one of my concerns as well down the road.
Yes.
What happens when that starts to push up and, again,
And it, like I said, it may not, because I don't know how familiar you are with Canby soil, but it is sandy loam. And they go down, they don't go out.
I've gotten, in this role, I've gotten a much more education on our sandy loam. The pros and cons to that in our community, for sure, and that's one of those situations, I think, for our trees, that can be a good thing.
Well, we are considered the garden spot.
Well, like I say, you definitely have a yard that you've definitely loved and have maintained very well, and it is not an easy thing to have happen, and for us to even have to entertain that piece of it.
But like I said, you know, if you could give me just an extra 6 to 8 inches, I think everything would be fine, and I could save that tree. And that's my main concern.
Any thoughts on the rest of the council here?
Yeah.
I do think it's worth a conversation. She's laid out several compromises. I too am a personal property rights person, but I also understand city right-of-way. But I also am aware of the neighborhood. It's only blocks from my house. So I know that neighborhood. I know it's not heavily traveled by car. So I don't think the safety issue, it's not like we're talking about reducing a sidewalk on Knightsbridge Road or something like that. So I don't know what the answer is, if it's actually doable, but I think it's worth the conversation. And if she's got a petition with, it's not just her, but her whole neighborhood is wanting to see this tree saved, I think it's worth the conversation at least.
And I think, we're very fortunate to have Jerry here. I think if it's doable from a sidewalk standpoint, I'd be wanting to save that tree.
Mr. Mayor? How does the liability come into play in regards to narrowing of the sidewalks?
It's a good question, sir.
There is an ADA requirement, and Jerry is 36 inches, the
Correct.
actual, so
Yeah,
40 is actually more than we're required to
I
have.
apologize for not asking Scott, our insurance, about narrowing it. We just talked about not having the sidewalk in because of the tree, but maybe Amanda might know on that. But at 36 is ADA. And we've counted it on basic curb in too, just so that you know, we count the curb as part of the sidewalk.
Sure.
Okay, so 40 seems reasonable to me, but I'm not a sidewalk expert. I think it's worth the next conversation.
But like I explained, it wouldn't have to be 40 all the way down. Just the extension from my driveway, possibly 17 feet past the tree, and then you could go 48 all the way back to the curb. It's just around that one tree where it would be a 40-inch sidewalk with a curb.
I think it's a reasonable compromise if it gets us, if we're not in any liability issues with the insurance company. I don't see why we couldn't do it.
Just one clarification also, I believe the rest of the sidewalk is 60, right?
Yes.
The other sidewalks are 60.
So it'd be, we're talking about almost half.
Almost half, yeah.
But there's no sidewalk there now, right?
There's none right now, correct?
So,
Can we find out from the insurance?
Yeah, I would have to take a look at what Hassan had suggested, if he had other suggestions, and run those by insurance.
Right.
Do we have concerns of setting, I want to save the tree too, of setting a precedence of the next development coming in and saying, well, you've allowed 40 inches here, why can't we do it?
Right.
I worry about that.
That is a piece that Jerry and I also talked about was, what is that? Yeah, there are areas that we've done that. Is that precedent setting? Has this become precedent setting where?
Historic trees and stuff like that, you'll notice that in town where we've gone around.
Okay.
That's been specific for historic trees?
Yeah.
Okay.
what if we were to vote on it conditionally of the insurance?
I don't think there's a vote piece. I think it's more of just going back, if you guys see that you want Amanda and Jerry to try to do some additional homework here
Right.
on this matter, because that's kind of what I'm hearing, that at least we want to see the, I guess, the potential insurance piece of it. I know that the project is moving quickly down that direction, and so I know that there was, I think, some other options as well that I think were shared with me that I think that Jerry and Amanda and Mary could probably talk about and work out. I think there's a solution here. I don't know what it is. You know, I go down that way because I go to church there at Canby Alliance, and it's a great neighborhood. You know, so we had neighbors coming out because Jerry and I were poking around, and there are kids in that apartment complex that cruise up and down that street on skateboards and bikes. I've seen that as well. You know, and so, and I hear you. You're not against sidewalks, and that's great. And you know, it's the balance that we've got to walk here as a council as well. So I hear that piece of what's the precedence we set, and that is something that I asked you guys to think about as well. So
I think the difference is retrofitting around existing trees versus a new development too. We're not making an exception in a new development.
Yeah, as long as we're equal across the board, I'm
Right.
happy.
Fair enough.
I think we should try to save that tree.
any thoughts here on the left side of the table?
Mine was insurance, so.
Okay.
I'll get that hammered out then. You have that petition?
Yeah.
I think Kim will need that.
Give that to Kim, that'd be great.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thanks for showing up.
If you and Jerry will convene.
I'll follow up.
I know that we've got it, like, because that project is cruising along very quickly, and I know that they're probably within the week will be moving that direction, and is that correct? So, if you guys haven't been, you know, take a look, go out, drive by it, so,
Well, you gotta walk by.
we'll walk by.
It's local traffic only. I mind my signs.
All right. Thank you, Mary, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you, Amanda. Okay. Moving into mayor's business. Couple of things. On a C4 front, so Clackamas Coordinating Committee, pardon the lingo. Your mayor here has been nominated and elected to the executive board of the Clackamas Coordinating Committee. So I'll be working with Commissioner Savas and the rest of the executive board. That's Mayor Dreamer from Happy Valley and Bob Reeves from Welch's. Just working on agendas and direction of the coordinating committee going forward. I have an invite for all of you to attend a lovely forum on road conditions. and it is for the public as well. It'll be Thursday, June 5th, from 6 to 8:30 at the Clackamas County Development Services Building, which is on the first floor auditorium. The topics will be federal surface transportation funding, roadways in Clackamas County, and local roadway funding options. One of the big things that the Coordinating Committee has been addressing for the last 3-4 years has been funding for maintenance mostly. We fall behind every year, and right now Clackamas County is projecting that we're about $20 million behind in our county road maintenance. And so just a forum to talk about that and options moving ahead. So you can come, or if you want, have questions or feedback you want me to pass along, let me know. Also coming to the council, which I will email to you guys, is a proposal to join the Transportation for America Club. It is a federal think tank that Clackamas County and other counties, along with cities, are being asked to join. I'll send that out to you for review via email, but they're going to be asking us for our thoughts and a vote on that. So I will send that out to you. And Kim, that might be at least something, I don't know if it's an official agenda item or if I'll just leave it under mayor's business for June or July, but just something for our buzz bin. There's also been conversation, last meeting, we had a conversation on smart growth for cities within the metro boundary as it pertains to transportation and roads, and how funding is allocated based on the smart growth strategies that are laid out both at a state level and a federal level, and that's kind of how some of the transportation stuff is being dictated, so we'll get more of that at the forum. During last year's legislative session, our representative, Bill Kennemer, put forth a piece of legislation to create an act. It's an area commission on transportation. Right now, Canby is not part of any regional transportation committee. We're kind of ad hoc, get it when we can, apply for grants that way when money comes available. So the legislation piece was to try to get this done so that an act could be created. We get a voice at the table in terms of how funding is spent and if we have a shot for our region to get any of that. So this week, that didn't leave committee. It died in committee, never saw the floor for a vote, but it's come back to life. ODOT has put together a task force to look at the act and how do we formally do it, looking at collaboration and consensus versus doing it legislatively. Is it one act? Is it a series of smaller ones for the region? And so I've been asked to be on that task force, so we had our first meeting on that, just laying down ground rules of playing nice and treating each other with respect and not get too ornery about road funds. It's myself and Mayor Hale of Portland are the only two mayors, I think, on the task force. The rest are county commissioners and a wide swath of people from various transportation, trucking, logging, etc. So it's a pretty good group, so keep you posted on what's going to come about with that. We have 3 new businesses that are located downtown now. One of those is the Big White Goose. Big White Goose. Definitely, these 3 businesses are worth checking out. I think they bring in a lot to downtown. So please come down and walk around and see what's new in downtown. I would like to thank all the council for being at the prayer breakfast last week. It's the first time the entire council had been at the prayer breakfast. I appreciate it. We had a great turnout. It was almost 100 people. It was bigger than last year and seems to be growing, which is great. If you're noticing it in TV land, and the 3 of you here in the audience, you see the new gizmos that the council has. We have made the switch and updated our technology to iPads, which will allow Kim to send us more packets more often and make changes. One of the things that it'll do also is cut expenses.
And save trees.
And save trees. Our packets sometimes can run 100, 200, and in some cases, if we're talking about a filling station, 500 pages, and that's per counselor. So if you think about the copy time and the organizing time of that, that'll save quite a bit of paper and money for expenses. Bob talked about Southeast 13th. I want to thank, I know that's part of the Sequoia project, but thank you to staff for getting those pieces implemented. There's been a lot of feedback on the flashing speed signs and the new crosswalks going in and the ADA crosswalk there at Ponderosa. So thank you, Jerry, and your team for getting that executed and getting that done. So thank you. And finally, if you've noticed in your mail, you've had your ballots and your voters pamphlet show up, and we've got a wonderful referral vote out there for you to consider. I would ask, me personally, and I think I can say we would ask you to vote yes on it, but I would just more importantly like you to vote. It is a big piece for Canby to have sent something to the voters regarding urban renewal, and you have a say. So we'd like your thoughts. So please, however you may vote, please vote on that and vote for all the candidates that are listed as well. And that concludes my report. Councilor Rocha.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Parks and Rec, there was quite a discussion on Maple Street Park, and they're looking at renovating the tennis courts. But they're also looking at putting in a spray park. There are concerns of water usage, but they did discuss the possibility of water reclamation ideas. But obviously, it's in the early stage of this